All right, good deal. So you've got Kali Linux all set up, hopefully, without too much trouble, and you've got a lot of power in your hands right now. So let's figure out, how do you use that power, right? How do you use it in a safe, controlled environment? So we're gonna download the first of the two vulnerable applications within the environment. The first one is going to be Damn Vulnerable Web Application, DVWA. So, what is a DVWA? It's a PHP and MySQL web application that is deliberately made damn vulnerable. Okay, its main goals are to be an aid for security professionals to test their skills, tools in a legal environment, and help web developers, basically the remediation process. So this came right from their website, and it's very much similar to the message I've been giving you. Legal environment and remediation. Keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get to the demo of how to install this bad boy. Hey guys, we are back. So now at this point, you should have your virtualized environment set up. You should have Kali Linux loaded up, and that'll give you all the tools that you're going to need to do your ethical hacking. Now, you're going to need some kind of vulnerable environment so you can test these tools and kind of build your skill set, right? So the first thing we're going to install and work on is called Damn Vulnerable Web Application. And we're going to do this in two phases. So um, back in the day, when you used a Linux environment, it was very much command based, right? And this was like 10 years ago. Now they've come a long way, and a lot of the stuff that you can do in Windows, you can do in Linux. But back then it was all command based through the terminal. So we're gonna teach you that, and then you are gonna hate me for this, but you are gonna learn something from this. And as you're using some of these more complex tools within Kali Linux, you are gonna have to use some of these commands. So sorry, but this will help you. So first things first, right? We want to know, we want the damn vulnerable web application. So I'm gonna simply open it up, and I'm gonna go to that website. So I had previously opened it. So I simply right clicked on it and then went to this all windows thing. Think of this as the tabs in Firefox or something, right? So it just shows up here. So I put a damn vulnerable web application in the URL in the search box. Right up front, you have the overall website. Here you can learn about it, read about it. But over here, the second one is where you can go to actually download it. Now, you can truly download it, go there, click this link, download it, put it wherever you want, as you would in a Windows environment, and then run through it. But we're going to do it a different way. We're going to do it through the terminal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal window. And as soon as that thing opens up, we're going to say, hey, you know what? Go to this website, which we just copied from there, and download this thing for me. So you're going to do git clone, and then just simply put the URL in. Okay? Now, again, remember what I said. You can download it, you can extract it, you can save it wherever you want. But look at this. This thing took care of that, right? But you know what? We're going to go one step further. We're going to say, you know what? Download it, but put it on the desktop. So CD desktop. Okay? Now it's on the desktop folder. Because I'm lazy, I don't want to go and find this thing. And now we're going to do it again. Git clone and paste it. Okay? And you'll see that it popped up over here right away. So I was not kidding when I told you that I'm lazy. The DVWA in caps is different from DVWA in lowercase when it comes to this environment. So just so I don't have to go back and forth between caps and not, we're just gonna change this. We're gonna say move DVWA, sorry, DVWA, and we're gonna call it DVWA lowercase. Okay, now as soon as I hit enter, you'll see that the folder over here is gonna change. So now it's lowercase. See that? So we've downloaded this damn vulnerable web application on our desktop. And now we need to figure out where do we put it. So in order for you to do that, you need two things. You need to, first of all, figure out what are you going to use to run it. In our case, we're going to use Apache. And secondly, where do you need to put it so Apache can read it? So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a folder structure to figure out where does Apache want me to put it for it to run properly. So this has opened up. You're going to go to other locations down here. This will start taking you towards the root. Hit computer. Apache resides in etc, Apache 2, sites enabled, and this default configuration file. So here's your Apache thing. This is what it's telling me, okay? Go down to the document root. It's saying that I will run your files as long as they're in this folder. So let's kind of navigate to that folder. So again, other locations, computer. It's telling me go to var, www, HTML. Okay? So right now the folder is empty. In your case, with the default installation, there might be 2 files in there. You could get rid of those. But it's telling me over here that it needs to be in there. So let's take your damn vulnerable web application and let's put it in there. Okay? So the way we're going to do that is let's go there. So cd var. Oh, we can't do uppercase. It's going to hate me if I do that. Oh, look at that. There's no file or directory. And the reason it's doing that is because we haven't put it there. So let's move it first. So DVWA, and let's move it to var www HTML. Okay, done. Now, if I go back to my desktop, you are not going to see this file here anymore because it's been moved. See, it's gone. Okay, now let's go to that folder and make sure it's there. So we're going to do cd var www HTML DVWA. Now I'm in that folder. Now if I do ls, which is the list function, it's going to show me everything that's in there. Okay? So we've downloaded it, we've transferred it to the right folder, and now you're going to have to do something. Actually, you know what? I'll show you how to do this. Okay? So let's do Apache 2 service, Apache 2 start. So we're basically saying, hey, Apache, I know you're on this machine. Why don't you go ahead and get started, okay? And then we have to go and test if it's going to work. 127. What's home, right? 001. That's home, right? So we're going to do that. And then we know it's in the DVWA folder. And then let's do index.php. And that's not working, right? It's saying the configuration file isn't right. I can't find it. But the interesting thing about this is if I minimize this, let's go back to that folder. And you're probably wondering, why is he doing index.php? Because it's one of the files. Actually, you know what? Better yet, let's do it this way. We're going to say list again, which is ls. And you're probably wondering, here's index.php. That's the one I was trying to run, right? But when you look in here, they also have something in here called robots.txt. So if I go back to that terminal, go back to my browser, and I change this to robots.txt, you'll see that one worked. PHP didn't work, but robots.txt worked, right? So a text file is reading perfectly. It's not reading the PHP file. So what we need to do is we need to change something here. We need to go to the config. Now look up here, right? There's a folder called config. So I'm going to do cd config, which is basically saying take me into that folder. And what's it doing here? There we go. So we're in that folder now. Now I'm going to hit list. Now, the file in there, the configuration file, is called config.inc.php.dist. In order for you to be able to run PHP here, you need to change that file to not be a .dist. It needs to be a PHP file for it to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this, and we're going to say take this config.inc.php.dist file, and we're going to make it a config. Oops, sorry, I'm supposed to be using dots here. These are not folders. This is a file. Okay, so now we're going to say take this and call it config.inc.php. Okay, so I want to open it up in here so you could see it happening as I do it. Okay, so it's the DST file, right? And I put in this code over here. And now as soon as I hit enter, you'll see that now it's a PHP file. Now, when I try to run it through the browser, it'll work. All Windows. Index.php. And there you go. Okay? So, what do we do here? We started Apache. We changed the configuration file up so that it can work with PHP. And now you've got this thing up and running. So, now that you're over here, there are a couple of things that you need to do. You're going to look down here and it'll give you the error codes down here. So the first thing it's telling me is that it's unable to connect to the database. And the reason why it's unable to connect to the database is because we haven't started the service for MySQL yet. So I'm going to minimize this, and same exact thing to start the service for MySQL. You're going to do service, MySQL, start. Okay, so it's working on that right now. Now, in the event that you're not sure if something is running or if it's not running and you just want to make sure, I'll show you the next command here that'll show you how to check the status of anything that you're running. So it went ahead and did that. Now, let's make sure that Apache 2 is running. Service Apache 2 status. And you'll see up here it says active and running. Okay? Now I'm going to hit Control C so we can move on. And Control C kind of brings you back to the command line. Now that we know that the server is running, let's make sure the database is running. And how do I do that? I'm hoping that you're yelling this out as an answer. So service, MySQL, status. And over here as well, active and running. Okay? So we know everything is working fine. So let's go back to your terminal and see what happens now. So remember it was saying unable to connect to the database. That was because the database was not running. Now it is running. So now it's going to give you the option. Hey, do you want to go ahead and create the database so we can get going here? And I'm going to say yes. Let's get the ball rolling. And of course, we have another error. Okay? So there are two errors here. But at the end of the day, there's one root cause and one thing that we're going to fix. Number one is saying that it could not connect to the MySQL service. Check the config file. And your database is root. If you're using the MariaDB, which we are, then this will not work. So we need to do a couple of changes here. So I'm going to walk you through that, okay? So what this is saying basically is you're using root as your user, and it doesn't want you to do that. So we need to create a new account, and we'll call it something else. We'll give it root privileges, and then that way we bypass this issue. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to minimize this window someday, and back over here again, we're going to do, how do we do this now? So MySQL, okay, that takes you into the database. And over here, it shows that we're using MariaDB. But we're going to say, okay, MariaDB, I want you to use MySQL, right? And now you'll see that it says none up here, but as soon as I did that, it changed the database to MySQL. Now we're going to create a user, and let's just call it root2, okay? And we're going to say identified by password, and you're going to close it with this colon, this semicolon, okay? And now the next thing is we're going to say, you know what, grant all the privileges to this account. So grant all privileges on to root2, semicolon again, okay? Now we're going to update user set plugin equals that, where user equals root. So we're tying it back to that root account. Now let's flush privileges. Okay. And now we need to go to the configuration file. So what we're going to do, DVWA config. So we can close this out. I'm going to hit Control C, and that gets me out of here and aborts everything. Okay, but all the changes have been done. So we're already in the config file. Let's go to ls. We know that this file is sitting there, right? Remember, this is a file that was the .dist. We changed it. Now let's open this thing up because we're going to have to put the new username and password in here. So I want to say leafpad, which is like a text editor, config.inc.php. And simply what this is going to do is it's going to open up that file so we can go in there and make the modifications. Okay, so remember this? This should look familiar to you. We looked at this before. This is what will tell us, oh, actually, we haven't looked at this before. Okay, so this is the way your database is going to be set up. And we're going to change this, and we're going to say root2. And if you remember, we made the password. Okay, so I'm going to save it, and I'm going to close it. Okay, so create root2, which is the username, and this is the password. And that's simply what I put in there. Okay, now let's try and go back here. So all the errors that we've seen thus far, we've kind of worked through. So now if I hit the create the database button, it'll work. Because of my slow computer, the button might not work, but the function behind it will work. There it goes. So as soon as I hit that button, it created the database in the back end and it started working. So we need to log in, and the default username and password for damn vulnerable web application is going to be admin and password. So admin and password, these are pretty bad, pretty common, right? I mean, hey, that's why this is a damn vulnerable web application. So you could remember it if you want, but for the sake of this video, I won't. Okay, so we're in. Congratulations, you set it up. I'm extremely proud of you. My little boy and girl is growing up. So now that you're in here, you've got all these different things that we're going to be working with at some point down the road. One of the first things I want to kind of share with you here is it has something in here called DVWA security. And this is why I like this application so much. So DVWA security comes with 4 different security levels. Okay. As you're working your way through this, you want to start with low, and it's just bad coding practices, really easy to exploit. You're going to be doing some of these exercises and be like, that's it? And it really is it. But once you've kind of gone through and fully understood how to do everything at the low level, work your way up to medium, high, and then impossible. And then when you go out to these external websites to do hacking, you will be well versed in this. So the way you change this is this drop down box. For the sake of this video, we're going to submit it to low, and now you will see the current security level is low. So what are we looking at in here, right? Actually, do you guys want to talk about that now? We could do it. I mean, this video is already over 19 minutes long, so I'll tell you what. I'm going to shut this video down right now. We'll call it installation of DVWA. I'm going to do another video right after this in which I'm going to explain to you what all these things are here on the left side, what the vulnerability is, when you finally get around to it, what's the type of exploit you can expect to do. So wanted to leave it at 19 minutes, me saying that last thing, it just added on another 30 seconds. So I'm going to stop right here, right now. I'll see you at the next video. See ya. Hey guys. Okay. So I totally forgot. I mentioned in the last video that I am going to show you how to do this the easy way as well, which is going to be very much like how Windows works. So what we're going to do here is we are actually going to go through. It's easier if the first method didn't work for you, which I hope it did. Um, then you can try this method. But this is just to show you how you can get this thing done much easier than what I had shown you earlier. Again, the benefit of the other way is you should get your hands dirty, and kind of understand how the terminal works. So if that didn't work for you, I'm going to do it again. It'll be simpler. It'll be more like how Windows works. And if the first one did work for you and you're content with what you have there, then by all means, feel free to skip this video. So I went and did a search on damn vulnerable web application. I hit the link that shows their main page. That brings me here, explains the application, and then the download button. So we are going to save this file. Hit OK. I don't even know where this is going. Probably going to the download folder. Okay, so let's see where it went. See, this is why I don't like this. Remember how the other one was? It was so easy. GitHub, you're done. Or, okay, so I'm going to check out. Here it is, okay? So we're going to cut it out of here, put it back on our desktop, make it somewhat similar to the last exercise that we did. Paste. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to extract it. So extract to. Right, now if you did extract here, it would have just, actually, you know what, we could do extract here because it's a folder contained within a folder. So let's just do that. Extract here. Okay, but for the sake of redoing this and not breaking anything, what we're going to do is we're going to call this DVWA2. Okay, so everything that you need is in here. Same exact thing, guys. Okay, we've downloaded it, we've extracted it, we know where it's going to run, and just in case you've forgotten, I'll show you again. We're going to go to other location. We're still going to use Apache to run this bad boy. So Etsy, Apache 2, sites enabled, default. Again, it's still going to run here. Okay, you can actually change this to have it run wherever you want. So we're going to take that folder and we're going to plop it in there. So let's just cut. See how this is just like Windows, but it's, I don't know, I'm lazy. I don't like doing things. So I just find it easier through the other method. So we're saying var dub HTML. Now, the DVWA folder from the last exercise is still there, but it's okay because we've named this DVWA2. So the only difference is when we fire up or try to fire this up, we're going to take it to 127.0.0.1 and we're going to have to say it's in DVWA2. So let's try that. Okay. So again, 127.0.0.1, DVWA2, remember that? And now we're going to do index.php. You're going to get the same error about the configuration file, but just to reconfirm that we're at least in the right folder, we know that the text file works, so let's see. Okay, so right where we were last time. So text file works, and the next thing we need to do is make that modification, DVWA2. Remember we did the MV function last time. In here, you're simply going to take this, rename it, and take the dist off. Seems easier, but I don't know. I like the other method better. So let's go back here. Now let's do index.php. And there you go. So again, same deal, right? Now, the problem is Apache still, or MySQL is still running. So let's stop that to show um, as if we're starting over, right? So unfortunately, you do have to go to the terminal for this. But this is good, right? I told you that you need to make sure that if you're starting services, you need to stop services. So this is how you do it. So service, Apache, to stop. Simple. And it's still going through the process in the back end to do the stopping. So that's done. Now let's do service, Apache 2, status. And you'll see up here that it's inactive. Okay, it's dead. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is stop the MySQL. So service, MySQL, stop. You know, you can actually do both of them together, right? So I'll show you how we do that. So once this is done, the next step will be service, MySQL status. And this will also tell me that it's inactive and dead, right? So Control C, let's get out of here. Now, going back here, this should not work at all. As a matter of fact, robots.txt, oh, oh, that works. Wow, that's interesting. So PHP should not work. Okay, because the service is not running. Okay, the text file is running because it's simply reading the text file. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start them up, but we're gonna start them up together. Okay, we're gonna do service Apache 2. You know, I can't spell, guys. You didn't sign up for this course for spelling. I'm sorry. Apache 2 start and double ampersand service MySQL start. And this is going to kick off both of the services at the same time. Okay, there it goes. So we're not going to do both of them again. I think you guys get the hint, but we'll just do a status on Apache and you'll see it's active and running. So let's go back here. We started up our web server. We started up our MySQL database. And now this should work. It better work. It may work. I hope it works. There we go. Okay. So that's it. Um, it is going to be looking for the other username and password. I don't know why it's not making me create it, but in the event that it needs to create it, you're going to do the same exact process of creating a MySQL account. So that's it, guys. We are exactly where we were with the last video. We have 10 minutes less, which is pretty cool. So now in the next video that I'm going to create, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about each of these vulnerabilities, and we should be good to go. The only thing here that is missing, though, is the DVWA. It is back to default, which is impossible. Make sure you make it low and work your way up. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, see ya. Hey guys. Okay, so you've got your VM set up, you've got Kali Linux set up, you've got your damn vulnerable web application set up, and now let's take a few minutes to talk about what it is. What kind of vulnerabilities can you expect here? What do they mean for you? What kind of tools you may be getting your hands on to make this happen, right? So right down here are all of the different type of vulnerabilities. We won't go through all of them, but we will be going through some of them. So brute force, this is pretty straightforward. This is when you try to brute force an application to try to guess the password. The limitation here from a remediation standpoint is you want to have applications locked down to a number of failed attempts before the account gets locked out for a limited time or permanently until somebody unlocks it. So say it's set up at 5 failed lockouts, that brute force will only work 5 times or the attempt before it locks you out. If you have a system that doesn't lock out at all, I could sit here and brute force away at that thing all day long. So what you're going to do here is you are going to brute force the password of a web application when you get into it. You're going to be doing some reconnaissance work. You're going to get your hands on Burp Suite to understand how the authentication of the site works. And then you're going to be using THC Hydra or whatever your tool may be to do a brute force attack using the dictionary. So that one is pretty straightforward in the low one, but as you progress up, this one's a lot of fun. Command injection and command execution. So a command execution is where a website application provides the ability to execute system commands. So this section of the damn vulnerability application has a web app that allows you to ping an IP address. A very simple web application. I really, really don't want us to get into the to too much detail here, but whenever this does decide that it wants to open up, simply what it does is, hey, you can go here, put in an IP address, and it'll ping it to make sure that it's live, right? And it's you can ping it through your terminal window as well. So I can put an IP address here, and it'll do it. The problem with this page inherently is flawed and vulnerable. So what you can do is you can actually put command codes in there that are going to give you backend database. So you're simply fooling the system into giving you information. The next one is cross-site request forgery. And with this type of attack, you basically write a user session, right? And you figure out what the session ID is, you go in, you replay that session ID, and now you are logged in as that user. File inclusion, it's similar to the file upload attack that you see right below it. The only difference between the two is the file uploading attack uses the uploading function on the target's website, but the file inclusion attack uses the user supplies input. So you're going to be tricking the server into using the same function to actually read the files on the server. File upload, we kind of talked about that. You upload a file here. CAPTCHA is not enabled on this. We can talk about how to do that. SQL injection is basically where you are going to be putting malicious code in a SQL statement to get the page to give you an output, something from the backend database. So over here on the low security level, it's pretty easy. We'll put a code in here. It'll give us information. The blind SQL injection down here is where you're going to be actually using SQL map to do the exploitation. Cross-site scripted or cross-site scripting reflected. So this one is basically you're going to modify the URL in a manner where it'll display the result you want it to display. So say, for example, that in the URL, I want to put in that so-and-so has no idea what they're doing, right? What happens is that'll get captured in the URL. Now, I can capture that URL, send it to so-and-so, and have them or trick them into clicking this URL. And when they do, it'll be like so-and-so doesn't know what the heck they're doing, right? So it's basically you inject a script, but it sits on your client as opposed to on the web server. So that error message will only pop up if the person clicks on it. It's a little harder to exploit as you need this other person to click on it in order for it to be exploited. So we're simply going to take the input box here, put some JavaScript code in there, and that'll tell you or that'll allow you to use cross-site scripting, and then you've got cross-site scripting stored. All right, this is a little bit more complex, a little bit more involved. This is where you actually up your code to sit on the server. Now, your target is not just so and so who you're sending this link to, hoping that they're going to click on it. Your target is anyone and everyone that comes to this website. So in this, you're going to have to gain shell access to the server and upload the script. So this one I like a lot as well. So a lot of cool stuff here, guys. I think you need to figure out, work your way through it, figure out what works, what doesn't, and continue building your skill set. But this is a very, very good start, and I wish you the best of luck. So when we come back, this is only the first of the two vulnerable items we're going to be putting on your server. The next one is going to be WebGoat. So we'll do the installation on that, and again, we'll talk through what the vulnerabilities are. So we'll talk then. See ya.